And I was genuinely at the point where I'm like, I'm either going to quit or I'm going to go all in. And I didn't
Yeah.
verbalize that, but mentally and emotionally, I was like, I'm going to go work in corporate. Like, this is just what I'm doing. I'm so tired.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I'm Courtney Cook, founder of Monarch COO, where I help mission-driven entrepreneurs grow their businesses. Each week, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs to explore the stories behind their successes and challenges. Whether you're just dreaming of starting a business or already building one, this podcast is here to show you that entrepreneurship is more attainable than it might seem, with insights for every stage of the journey. Meredyth Fletcher has been a business owner since 2014, and having had over a decade of experience working with clients in the field of health and wellness and digital marketing, Meredyth has an ongoing passion to help others. She enjoys helping those seeking to find a place of freedom and healing in their own bodies and serving others in their own health and wellness businesses through effective marketing strategies. Meredyth uses a complete mind, body, soul approach when offering supportive care to her clients. She and her husband Daniel live in Texas with their 2 boys. Find her on Instagram at Karpos Wellness or on her website at www.karposwellness.com. Let's dive into today's conversation and see what it takes to build a business. Hi, Meredyth. Thank you so much for joining me today on the podcast.
Of
We
course.
became friends this summer, or was it this fall? Gosh, it's kind of a time warp. I feel like we've known each other a while because we just kind of hit it off and we've been chatting ever since. We went on a business retreat together, so I'm just thrilled that I got to meet you and that now we get to have this conversation. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Well, will you just kick us off by sharing about your business, what you do, who you serve, and how long you've been a business owner?
Yeah. Okay. So I am in the wellness industry in several different capacities. So there's a few different arenas that fall under wellness. So mental health, physical health, emotional health, and spiritual health. I have a background, over a decade experience in the nutrition field. And then I also have a master's in clinical mental health counseling. And I have a master's in seminary and have spent a lot of my life studying the connection between the brain and the gut and how God designed our bodies to know how to heal when they're given the right tools. And in addition to that, so I started, before we get into the addition, started working for myself about over a decade ago, kind of exploring what this entrepreneurial path looks like. Dabbled in a few things before I got into the wellness sphere. And while I was growing my business, also gained almost also a decade of experience in digital marketing and social presence. And so now we take all of that, we mash it up into a couple different things. One, there's different levels and ways that people have the ability to work with me or have access to me, my team, which is currently me and my husband. We do this. He also has a background in nutrition, and he's extremely brilliant with systems, and he's our family chef. And so it's super fun. We do a lot of dreaming and vision casting together. So we work with clients. I work with clients one-on-one. He does not. And then we also, so anybody that's interested in physical health, mainly with clinical lab testing, I do a lot of work with them. And then also we have a sister brand where we serve other wellness, mental health, faith-driven companies in their marketing efforts and their online presence as well. So I've got a lot of different things going on.
Amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
If there's an opportunity, you should absolutely take it. I love it. So was there a specific moment or experience that led you to really the nutrition and the wellness, the gut brain health, like what brought you to that idea initially? Because just to make sure, that was really the start of all of this, right?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, it was birthed out of a personal experience. So, in college, I went through a period where I was really fascinated with nutrients. I personally just also went through a hard season where I was navigating some things on my own and looking at what does it look like to invite healing in my life, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. And started to learn a lot about what that looks like to, you know, fight for health in all kinds of ways for myself, advocate for myself, um, and navigate even relationships and making things optimal and um, healthy in that regards, exploring boundaries and so many things. So in that season, I had a nutritionist myself. I had older people, mentors. It was just kind of, it was a compilation, a team of people that were very instrumental in that growth season for me. And I realized how quickly, well, I quickly realized that um, whenever I am really in that physical mindset of striving for health and wellness, it directly impacted how I was responding mentally and emotionally and spiritually. And likewise, whenever I was really striving for healthy boundaries and, healthy emotions and really diving deep into what it looks like to have a strong relationship with the Lord, it would impact me significantly in a physical way. And I learned a lot about discipline, a lot about showing up, like get up, put your shoes on, go work out, get up, have your quiet time, spend time with the Lord, get up, see what it looks like to work through this very hard, grievous thing in your life, but from a place of whole body health. And so I experienced this thing where no one was talking about it. No one really said to put all these pieces together. I just did out of interest. And what I noticed was how everything connected.
Crazy.
And so I just was like, I got to figure this out. And people around me started noticing, and they were like, can you create a meal plan for me? Or can you create a workout plan? I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but yeah, let's go.
That's awesome.
And that's how it started.
Fascinating. So then what was the process of then taking this idea and you're like, okay, there's more here. I need to make a business out of this because people want this. What was that process like?
Well, I had graduated college, had a background in English studio art, and so that was not going to serve this arena. And I knew if I was going to serve people well, I needed to know what I was doing. So went back to nutrition school, got education while I was working. And I was like, you know what? I'll just kind of see. At first, it kind of started with, is this for me? Is this for the people around me? Or is this something that I want to do? All the while knowing I knew that I always wanted to work for myself. I always knew that I wanted to own at least one business. I just knew that. I have that bent, always have since I was like 5. But I always held it open and loosely because I have a lot of passions. Obviously, you can see that. And so when I started the journey, I held it loosely and I was just open with, okay, I'm going to give it my all and we'll see. We'll put one foot in front of the other. We'll see. And within about a year of starting the education process, I was like, I was made for this. Absolutely made for this. And so that's when I knew I'm going to start trying. That's not when it started to take off, but that's when it was like, this is it.
Yeah.
So
what was that trying like? Like, what did you do? Were you like trying to get some clients or what were those first steps?
Yeah. So a lot of clients in the very beginning were very organic. And so I think that's how I started to come to terms with this being a potential reality, because I think there were a couple times in school where I needed like practice clients. And so I would reach out to some friends and, hey, want to do this? And everybody was on board, but then they would tell their friends, and it wasn't far reaching at first, but people were interested and people wanted the information. They were curious. And so I said yes as much as I could, right? Within my scope, within my bandwidth and ability, I said yes. And the more that I just started organically having these conversations, helping people, that's when I realized, okay, people have a desire. People want to know about nutrition, but they don't want to learn all about iodine and do all the nitty gritty in the textbooks. And that's where I was like, I thrive.
Do that.
So I will learn about it and I will teach you because
That's
I love
cool.
it.
So were you on social media then? Is that how you were kind of
No,
reaching?
I
Not even that?
wasn't. Not myself. No. I was doing social media for other people at the time. Um, but I was not on social media for
Okay.
myself. I actually was very, very dark and quiet for a lot of years, which is ironic now,
Yeah.
considering what I do, um, personally and professionally. But yeah, it was all just word of mouth, people in my sphere, and that's,
Sweet.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
amazing. So what's been one of the most unexpected challenges that you've had in your entrepreneurial journey? Maybe early on, maybe more recent. Just more of something that you're like, wow, I did not see that coming.
Yeah, it's really hard.
Just overall,
Um,
yeah.
it's really hard. And I think what is challenging in literally every phase, in the beginning phase, in the last week phase, where we're 10, 12, almost 15 years deep in doing this. Um, I think that even though you have a high level degree of passion for what you're doing and for what you're called to do, there's always going to be things that are you're going to have to figure it out. You're going to not love everything. And so I think along the way, realizing there's so much about this that I love, and it's always worth doing and never giving up. Although I almost have a few times because it is so hard.
Yeah.
I think just realizing there's always going to be something along the path that isn't going to necessarily fill your cup,
Mm-hmm.
but it's part of the process of doing what you have to do to own a business.
Yep.
And so I think that that's been surprising. Not It's less surprising now, I would say. In the beginning, when it first started
You're
happening,
like,
I'm like, but I was supposed to like love
I thought
this
this
every
was all going
day,
to be
all day long.
fun. Yeah, every little aspect I was going to be
Yeah,
excited about. And now I'm not.
yeah,
And now I'm mad and I'm going to
yeah.
pout.
Right. And some days all I do is spend the whole day on Google or chat support or tech support,
Yeah.
and I'm like, what am I actually doing?
Yeah, I'm IT, I'm HR, I'm everything.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
that. But it's so
So
beautiful.
it is. There's a lot of benefits that come with it.
Yeah.
So was there a turning point or some like aha moment where you're like, "Oh my gosh, this is going to work. I think I can
Yeah.
actually spend all my time on this."
Yeah. This is super cool. Because part of the journey, so I started this entire process when I was single, and had jobs, kind of on the side to pay the bills, and came together with my husband. He has a background in nutrition. We met on a blind date. It was just like meant to be. And we have the same drive. We connected on so many levels. And so he actually, at the point of us meeting, I was actually a little worn down by the process of the business aspect, even knowing that this would be a dream. But it's kind of hard. You got to figure it out, right? You just
Yeah.
got to figure it out. You got to take a lot of courses, and you got to dig
Mhm.
really deep, and it's never ending. And so when I met him, he really breathed life into me and into the process. And he's a huge part of just, he believed in the business almost more than I think I did at that time. And he was like, he laid out a vision for the whole thing himself and what he saw. And no one had ever done that for me in my life other than like that clear. Definitely have friends and stuff that have been supportive all along the way, but it was so clear and palpable that he just kind of breathed into the business, just life of you can do this, even though it feels non-existent or broken or whatever. And so that was the first, okay, I'm going to receive this. And then I went all in on it. I went all in then in faith. And I was like, I'm going to take a risk. I'm going to see if it works. I'm going to kind of dial it back on some of the other things that I was doing. And slowly it started working. And I will say, even recently in the past like few years, just seeing that. So to even go back to the social media conversation, I wasn't on social media initially. It was a few clients here and there that were giving me hope, that were interested, and they were, conversations. Not enough to sustain a company, right? You got to figure out all of that, and you got to market, and you got to, there are lots of things involved. And so once I was like, I'm going all in, I changed my own marketing strategy. I did a bunch of things to get myself out there, did a lot of networking events, met a lot of people, created a lot of relationships. And I love that. Like, just, I feel like it's very authentic to who I am, just having conversations. And I love that. All the while though, my social media, my personal social media was growing, I was getting, I'm like, okay, people are reaching out. But then I kind of got to this point where I wasn't doing as much marketing. And this was the aha. This is the whole lead up to the question. I wasn't doing as much marketing and people kept reaching out. And I was like, where are you coming from? Like, I don't know you. Like, you're not somebody I know.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, people are sharing about it. And I think that was just recently in the past like few years where I felt like all the efforts leading up to that point in time were like, oh, wow.
I don't have to like,
people are sharing.
Yeah, hustle is hard when this is an organic way of growing. That's really cool.
Yeah. I still do marketing and still do all of that, but
yeah. And how sweet of your husband to just like, come in and here's what this is going to look like. And you're like, oh, this is what I needed that. Oh, because it can be really lonely and really dark. So it's so cool that he came alongside you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was genuinely at the point where I'm like, I'm either going to quit or I'm going to go all in. And I didn't verbalize that, but mentally and emotionally, I was like, I'm going to go work in corporate. Like, this is just what I'm doing. I'm so, I'm so tired. I'm so like, or I'm going to go. It was just very, very extremely pivotal. And I met him and we had this conversation at like the time where I needed it. And I think the Lord knew that and he saw that, and here we are.
Yep. It's amazing. He works in incredible ways. So you said earlier that you like from the time you were 5, you knew like, I'm going to, own your own business. You just had that inside you. So, how did you always know? And like, was there something or someone who inspired you the most as a child that really instilled that, that spirit within you?
I think the most impactful concepts, there were people along the way that were inspiring for sure. But I think I grasped from a really small age the concept, the idea, the invitation of beauty and creativity. And I know it seems like it's not going to connect, but stay with me.
I'm staying.
Because when you are on the path of entrepreneurship, there's a lot of creativity, there's a lot of innovative thoughts, there's a lot of ideas, there's a lot of willingness to think outside the box and to do things differently. And that's where it started for me, where I felt like I was a creative little girl and I wanted to paint everything, and I wanted to take pictures of everything, and I wanted to find the color and the beauty, and I wanted to invite that creativity into every aspect, even musically. I feel like the Lord has always spoken to me personally through music and creativity, and so those things have always been deeply set in the way that I am wired. And so I always knew that I wasn't going to be able to stay in a box. I wanted a place to be able to dream and think outside of the box, to be able to navigate things how I wanted to navigate them and be different. And you can ask anyone that knows me from the time I was little, that will say she hasn't really ever cared about what people are supposed to do, and what is supposed to be next, and how your life is supposed to look on a certain timeline. And I do think that that's by God's grace and some personal experiences that even, um, make that be a thing about me in general. But yeah, so I think that that craving for creativity, and making a living doing work that I felt was impactful and beautiful, is where I always knew, or that's where I always drew the biggest inspiration. Yes, people along the way, but then just God is so big. There is so much. Like, we don't have to be bound by what we see.
Yep.
There can be so many opportunities and so much if you're just willing to think differently.
Yeah.
So I just always knew. I don't
That's
know.
amazing.
I think as a small child, I didn't know what careers were. I didn't know what
Right.
it meant to work, but just in a general life sense, I always knew, like,
You had
I
like
want to
those
do
gifts.
something.
Yeah. For sure. That's super cool. You were just always, you just had this like living this spirit of inspiration, and that's really
Yeah.
sweet. I can totally see that too, just knowing you as an adult. I have
Yeah.
no doubt in my mind as a child, you were exactly like that. I just love it. The passion and your excitement for things, I think, is really unmatched and makes you a really fun friend. So
I
that's
appreciate
so
that.
super cool. So let's get into just more businessy stuff. So do you have any goals for your business in 2025?
Do I? Yes. I have some pretty steep financial goals this year. And yeah, I do. And then I have some growth goals. Yeah, I think we are we're at a very special point. And I keep saying we because my husband is very in it with me. So I'm at a very special moment in time in the business, on the edge of financial growth, on the edge of just growth in general. And so we see 2025 being a year of opportunity and provision in a way that has never been there, which we're very, very excited about.
That's really cool. That's exciting. I'm excited to watch from the sidelines. I'm sure you're in for a ride. So you are a mom and running a business alongside your personal life, which I'm sure is very busy. It's not always easy.
Yes.
That's, speaking from experience as well. But how do you balance the demands of running a business with your personal life?
Yeah, that's a good question. Lots of time blocking and coordinating and figuring out how to be a good time manager, which is not innately a good skill, like a natural skill of mine. Is something that I've had to work at. We're getting there. We have a nanny that comes to help with the kids during the day, but I feel very strongly that I want to be a big influence in their life. And so our work week doesn't look like a normal 9 to 5. It looks differently. And we have navigated what that needs to be based on what my kids need and the times of the day that they need me most or they need my husband most. And we try really hard to um even getting really specific. I have 2 phones. One is personal, one is work, and all of my work stuff goes on that phone. And so at the end of the working time block, um leaving that phone in the other room as often as possible. It's not always possible, but just having that boundary, or even I heard this on a podcast recently actually about business and motherhood and navigating what that looks like, because you're with your kids but you have to answer a call or you have to answer a text and stuff, but never wanting them to feel like the person in your phone is more important. And so there are times where you can't not experience that. And so what they had shared on the podcast was explaining to your small child, hey, somebody reached out to mommy, their belly's hurting, and so mama's going to help them, figure out how to bring comfort to their belly in the best way that I can talk to a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So I'm gonna tell them what I suggest for them, and as soon as I'm done telling them, I'm gonna put my phone away. I'm gonna be all in with you because I want to spend time with you, and really being verbal about that and what that looks like as much as I can bring them in on that. And so that's kind of where we are right now. Those are the most top of mind things that we're working on right now, and being very, very diligent about blocking things off and putting them where they go, and not panicking and worrying the whole time I'm with one but need to be with the other.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get better at that, because that's a whole thing.
It is a whole thing. Well, as you figure it out, share your tips with me along the way, because I could use them too.
You too.
It is a struggle. So if you could go back and give your younger entrepreneurial self one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, I love this question. Anyone who is listening, who is in, the beginning stages, I would say, without a shadow of a doubt, do things the right way from the start. Meaning, if you have systems that you need to get going, if you, a lot of things, when you start a business, it's really tempting to jump in on income producing activities, which are obviously essential to keep things rolling. But the non-income producing activities in the beginning and every stage of the business are just as essential, because they are what is going to be the foundation and keep things rolling and moving and grooving. There were a lot of things that I had to troubleshoot a few years in, which is fine. I mean, there are things I'm still currently troubleshooting as we navigate multiple brands and, what that looks like. But that's what I would say is take time to read the books, read the blogs, and do everything slowly and with anticipation that things will come together in time, and every little thing deeply matters.
Yeah. I had another podcast guest say his challenge to founders is, what would happen if your business doubled overnight? Would you be okay? Would the processes be okay? Would the systems be okay? Because that's when things fall apart and you're like, oh, wait, this is not sustainable. I was like, yeah, that's a great tip. Because man, I mean, even with my podcast, I've had to got a whole process, things that I can check off and not forget, all the pieces and parts. I think that's really great advice, Meredyth. It's really great advice. What's been the most rewarding part of your entrepreneurial journey?
Honestly, the work that I get to do with the people in this sphere of wellness.
Yeah.
When it comes to that touch point with a client that has been struggling for years over a physical ailment, getting to sit with them, getting to be with them, I find that very rewarding, especially when it works. And when a client, I had a client recently say something along the lines of, and all of what I'm saying is only by God's grace. Let's just go ahead and put that out there, because this is just, have I done a lot of research? Have I read a lot of books? Yeah, sure. But it's all by God's grace. I had a client reach out and just say she's been to X number of practitioners over the past 10 years and no one's ever shown her this particular thing, and she's seeing healing. And I find it very fulfilling to be able to pray with people and use the tools that God gave us to bring healing over their bodies. And I also thrive in being creative. And I thrive in the environment that no day is the same. No task is, well, I won't say no task is the same. They're the same tasks every day, but every day is different. And I personally just thrive in that behind the scenes, moving and grooving type of energy and vibe. So I would say both of those.
That's awesome. I love it. So one final question that I ask to everybody is, what's one thing you wish you knew when you started your entrepreneurial journey?
I think going back to what was surprising about how everything isn't going to be, roses and so fun. When I started, I think I had heard that, but I wish that I had deeply absorbed that, because I think it would have created less rockiness in some stages of growth, knowing, hey, it's not all fun. It took me a few troubleshooting episodes in the beginning and over time to really absorb that. And so I think that would honestly have probably saved me a lot of heartache, to just be able to stay in it more in a more stable way in the beginning. Just took a few years to kind of get a handle on that, but which isn't the worst. I learned a lot, but I think just knowing this is the path. This is good.
Yes.
This hard things do not equal not good.
Right.
So just trust in that, and trust in that. It's very hard in the very beginning, especially, but it works. It just does.
Yeah. And it's worth it.
It's so worth it.
So where can people find you? And I also want you to shout out your book too as well. So give all the ways that if people are looking for your help, Meredyth, can they find you? How can they reach out?
So my website is www.karposwellness.com, Karpos wellness.com. People can email me, Meredyth@karposwellness.com. I would love to hear from anybody and everybody. And then I did write a book, like you mentioned.
Amazing.
And that was published this summer. And it's a mashup of all of the things that I am passionate about and have a background in. It's the connection between the mind and the gut, and a faith-based perspective on full whole body healing. And it's called The Good Food Solution. You can find it on Amazon, and I would love to hear from you.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. This has been really fun to just hear more about the beginning, because I didn't know all of that. And now I feel like just having that context, I just appreciate you even more. And I'm so grateful for you. So thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel the same about you. This has been so fun. I love talking about business. So thank you for inviting me on. And I am so inspired and excited to listen to all of your episodes. Sign me up for all of them. Subscribe.
Well, I appreciate it. We're recording this on the day that the first 4 drop. So it's a really big day, and I'm excited.
Awesome.
I know.
Congrats.
Thanks.
So exciting.
Thanks. Well, thank you again. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Entrepreneur's Blueprint. I hope you found inspiration and insights to fuel your entrepreneurial journey. If you're looking for support in building or scaling your business profitably, visit my website or send me an email to learn more about how I help mission-driven businesses become more profitable, proactive, and efficient. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to leave a review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. It really helps other entrepreneurs discover the show, and it would mean so much to me as well. Until next time, keep building, keep dreaming, and keep going.